Hello, everyone. This is Becky DeGrossa with CounselingWise.com, and today I'm going to cover a not so fun topic. Has your private practice website been penalized by Google? Okay, and I was actually kind of surprised at how many people registered for this. So I thought it would be a small subset of our list, but it was quite a few people. So let's talk about the reason for this webinar. And before I even start in, I want to make sure that you can hear me. Can you hear me? I don't want to go on until I can get confirmation that you guys can see the screen and that, aha, Megan tells me she can hear me on another screen. Great. Perfect. Okay. Good deal. So the reason for this webinar today is that what we're finding is that there's quite a few therapists these days who have been hit by the Google penalties. And when we when we go to look at their site and try to help them with their marketing, this is what we're realizing, is that in some cases they have Google penalty that is hit, and maybe a long time ago, okay? Most therapists don't even know about this. They don't understand the nuances of it, so they don't even know that they've been penalized. And since I'm seeing it so much, it's clear to me that we really need some education on this topic in our community. So that's why I'm doing this today. So this presentation today is for you if you have noticed a slowdown in your website traffic. Okay, that's the first thing. If you've noticed a loss of rankings, okay? So if it used to be the case that you could go to Google and type in, whatever, depression therapist, Ann Arbor, and you used to show up, whatever your city is, and now you no longer do, or whatever your main terms are, and you no longer show up, then it could be that you have a penalty, and that's why you're not showing up. That's why you're not getting the traffic, okay? If you think that you might have done something against Google's terms of service, either inadvertently or intentionally, then this is definitely something that you want to pay attention to. Now, some people, I say inadvertently because a lot of people have maybe heard a little bit about, well, with SEO, you're supposed to use a lot of keywords on the page, and so I'm going to do that. And there's in our industry, a lot of people just don't know what is okay with Google and what isn't okay with Google. And so you may be pulling in copy from somebody else. You may be duplicating content on your site. You may be creating websites with thin content, very little content. There's all sorts of things that you could be doing. So a lot of folks just don't know, and so this is something that we're going to cover today. Now, the other thing is, if you have hired somebody in the past, I'm going to talk about that, what the dangers are. But, a lot of people who were really wanting to show up well in the search engines, they hired companies to help them, or they implemented some techniques they heard were good, and now it's hurting them years later, even a couple years later. So we're going to cover all of that, all right? Okay, so on this presentation, you will learn, first of all, how to tell if you've been penalized, what to do about it if you have been, and then how to keep from getting penalized in the future. Okay, important stuff. Now, I do have a warning for you, okay? This webinar content today is going to be much more technical than my typical webinar content, all right? And the reason is that this stuff is really detailed. So what I want you to keep in mind is that you don't need to feel pressured to understand everything. There's going to be a lot of technical stuff. I just feel that I want to tell you in case some of you are more tech savvy than others, and you can go forward and take care of some of these things. And I want you to basically understand the concepts, okay? The reason is I don't want you to stay stuck if you are stuck, and I don't want you to do the wrong things in the future or hire it out, okay? So just don't worry about the details, but sit back and get the overall picture, okay? All right, so the problem is this. In order to rank better in Google, many people did quote unquote tricks like keyword stuffing, words on their pages, duplicating content, who knows what, or paid an SEO company to help. Now, the interesting thing is that this worked, okay? This worked really well for a long, long time. And most likely the SEO company, if you had one, was actually working in your best interest, and you ranked and got a lot of business from it, okay? So this is the hard part. It was something that worked really well, and Google had no issue with it. They weren't penalizing anyone. And so, you know, anyone who had your best interest at heart did this for you. The problem is then Google basically said, wait a minute, we're not going to allow this. And they implemented penalties into their algorithm, and they even are penalizing sites retroactively. So, you know, the big thing is to realize that most likely these people were not trying to hurt you. They were trying to help you. If you hired them and they were building links or doing whatever, they were trying to help you. They were trying to help you rank and do better in your business. But then the rules changed and Google started penalizing these things. Okay, so this is what you need to know, that even if it was years ago, you could still be penalized. In January of 2011, Google came around with the Farmer update. That was a predecessor to a much bigger impact, which was Panda, that got rolled out in February of 2011. You don't need to, you don't need to worry about the details of this. I just want to give you a sense of the algorithms that Google has been doling out and what you can expect to happen in the future, because they're continuing to do this, okay? They're just rolling out algorithm after algorithm. So February of 2011, Panda hit. And Panda was all about targeting poor quality pages. So if you have only a little bit of content on your site, if you have keyword stuffing on your site, if you've copied content from another website or even duplicated pages on your own site, I'll talk about all the details of what you need to watch for, but that's what Panda was about. And the reason Panda rolled out is that there were a lot of websites that were ranking that were really terrible websites, and all sorts of people who had really strong websites with good, well-developed copy were complaining to Google. And they're saying, hey, how come you're putting these stupid, sites up there that have terrible grammar and terrible copy and very little information? You're ranking them above me, and here I am with a site that has tons and tons of pages of very relevant, well-written, high-quality content. This isn't fair. So Google rolled out Panda to basically decrease the rankings of sites that have poor quality on them, okay? So then the next thing that they did was that they decided to address another thing. And so they rolled out something called Penguin, and Penguin was meant to target sites that had a lot of backlinks built that weren't genuine backlinks, okay? So again, SEO companies learned that they could help people by getting websites up in the rankings, by building backlinks. And a lot of people, and in fact, a lot of therapists did this, they created a bunch of articles and they put them out on article sites like eZine Article and, sites like that. And all these backlinks would come back to their site with anchor text saying, Therapist Phoenix or Therapy Phoenix or Counselor Phoenix or whatever their city was. And because they had so many backlinks coming back, Google counted them as votes, if you will. And they seemed to be a very popular site, a good site. So Google ranked them highly. Well, then of course, since all of these sites were, since these articles were just put out there to get links and they weren't actually natural backlinks, then they rolled out Penguin to get rid of the effect of that. So that's what Penguin was meant to do. In August of 2013, Google then rolled out Hummingbird, which is not really a new algorithm, but it's something that combined all the previous algorithms. And there's another algorithm in there, in case you hear of it, the EMD algorithm. It's called Exact Match Domain. That was in there in between Penguin and Panda, but it hasn't had that big of effect. And the effects are very similar to Penguin, and the fix is very similar to Penguin. So I'm not going to really get into the details of that one, okay? I don't want to bore you guys with all these details. But bottom line, Google is rolling out hundreds of algorithm updates each year, okay? Hundreds. And so they're continually fine-tuning this. They're, getting more and more specific and strict about all of these guidelines being followed. and it's just here to stay. This is it. They're trying to clean up the web. They want to remain the biggest search engine, right? If they're delivering bad results because people are doing things to trick their algorithm, then people aren't going to use Google anymore. So they really want to stay in business, so they're cleaning it up, trying to ensure that when someone does a search, that Google will present the best websites at the top of the search results for that topic. Now, they don't have it perfected. So I already know, there's a lot of sites that are ranking that aren't that good, and you're going to probably find some in your market. Bottom line, you can probably rest assured that those are going to be disappearing at some point as these algorithms continue to get refined and rolled out. All right. And there was just another one that was rolled out this last weekend. I even forget the name of it. I'm not even sure the name of it, but it was rolled out this last weekend. And actually, there hasn't been a big hit. It doesn't seem like from that last algorithm. So it's just more fine-tuning stuff. All right, so where's this going? If you think you might have been hit by a penalty, what you need to realize is that you don't need to feel totally sunk. It's not over, okay? There's a way to recover from this. Don't get overwhelmed with the technical job of recovery, because it is definitely possible to recover. And first, you just need to figure out if you've been hit, and then you need to create a plan to recover or to rebuild, okay? In some cases, rebuilding is a better idea. Like rebuilding a new site is a better idea for some people than to recover, because it may take less time and cost less money. So this may sound scary. We have steps to help you. We can also do it for you if you don't want to do it for yourself. More on that at the end of the presentation. I've been resisting playing in this game because it's so distasteful and it's so much work, but there's just so many people that are paralyzed and stuck. So we decided that we're probably better equipped to help than a lot of therapists doing it for themselves. So we're reluctantly rolling out something. I want to tell you about Lisa, okay? Lisa has a large group practice, large group site. She's put a lot of work into her site, okay? She has, I think, herself and 5 other clinicians. Lots of good content on the site, many pages. I think when she contacted us, she had something like 600 pages or 700 pages, something like that. Site is professionally designed. She's blogging regularly. She also has a lot of good press, and someone who has put tons of energy and a big investment into online marketing, and that was working really well for her. Okay, but then she got hit, and at first she didn't even realize she got hit. Okay, so all she knew was that she was getting phone calls, she was getting clients online, and then that just started to peter out. Okay, so here's what happened. You can see that life was good for her, in the beginning of 2011, well, late 2010, and then 2011, and then it started going down the second half of 2011, and pretty much tanked in January of 2012. Okay, so this is typical of a penalty, and this is just something that this is what it looks like. This is actually an SEMrush chart. So if you want to go get an SEMrush account, SEMrush.com, you can get one and you can put your site in and you can see if your traffic looks like this, if your traffic profile looks like this. And that'll be an indication that maybe you got hit. So back in the day when Lisa came to us, things were a little murkier than they are now in determining a penalty, okay? She contacted us and we were able to determine she had no manual penalty from Google, i.e. no human being went into her account and said, we are penalizing you. So it wouldn't have been that obvious. Her link profile looked a little suspicious to us. She had some on-page issues, meaning her SEO wasn't as strong as it could have been. And there was some, I think, a little bit of duplication of content. I don't remember all the details exactly. And there were some pages that were pretty sparse, but it wasn't too bad, okay? There were just some issues, not terrible issues. But we decided, okay, the options at that point were either try to fix her backlink issue with these suspicious profile things. And the cheapest option that we trusted that we could find was $3,000 to do that. Okay. And, you know, there's a lot, just like anything online, there's a bunch of people out there saying, we can fix this for you. And probably you shouldn't trust most of them. But we decided to fix her on-page issues instead of having her spend $3,000 and start to do much better marketing for her on her site in terms of content development, better targeted blogs, much better SEO. And so we decided to do that first. So we worked pretty darn hard on that with her, with our writers. It was great momentum on that project with getting a lot of really good stuff done, organizing our site differently so people could find things right away, all the stuff that we basically do in our Smart Therapy Websites program. Okay, so that was something that really should have helped. Okay, typically when we do that much work, we see some pretty big changes happening for people in terms of traffic and keyword rankings. So even though this should have helped if she had no more penalties, it didn't help enough. Okay. And so here she was, you know, this big group practice relying on her to get enough clients in to keep everybody busy. She'd invested tons of money in her website, and it just didn't help enough. Okay. So then we decided, okay, so let's really look at this backlink issue then. We've tried everything else. And, you know, the good thing to remember is that all the stuff that we did, it was not going to be wasted. If she had a backlink penalty and we were able to get rid of it, then because of the new marketing we did, she should bounce back. Okay, she should bounce up higher, maybe eventually even higher than she was. So that's the good thing about doing good work on your site. Remember that if you're writing good content, if you're blogging regularly, if you're doing good SEO, it's never going to hurt you. It's only going to help you as soon as you take the wet blanket off, which could be a penalty. All right, so she knew that. She was willing to invest going in because it was going to pay off eventually. And she was hoping, of course, that she didn't have to invest huge money in this backlink penalty thing. Okay. So she did invest in it and voila. Okay. She bounced back up. You can already see that she is higher, tad bit higher than she was. And her, you know, her trajectory to go up is looking good. This last dot here is, I believe, let's see, July, August, September. Okay, so that's September, looking good, and she's continuing to develop content. So basically, things have turned around for her. Okay, it's all come together and paid off. So the bottom line is that recovery is possible. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to figure out exactly what is wrong and what needs to happen, but it is possible. It's now easier to determine whether you have a penalty or not than it was back then when she came to us, which is probably a year ago. We've probably been working with her for a good year. Okay. And it's also easier to recover than it was back then. There's much more known now about how to recover. You have to understand that Google rolls these algorithms out. They don't announce anything, right? They don't really want everyone to understand their algorithms. They want you to just do good, very, very clean marketing, generate lots of valuable content for people, and just work hard and do the right thing. So they don't really want people to know the details. So they roll these things out. It takes the SEO community quite a bit of time to analyze what has happened, to see what kind of websites have been hit with various algorithms, to create theories as to what might have happened and what the algorithm is doing now and all that. So it's taken a while for everyone to figure out easier ways to recover. You still, if you're looking to recover from this, need to make sure that you're going to someone who is, if you're looking for outside help, that you're going to go to someone who is very trustable, ethical, not going to do the wrong thing, okay? Not build more links for you or whatever and get you in more trouble. So I want you to be careful of that, but it is in fact more well known what you can do to recover from this problem. Okay, so I'm going to get into the details here a little bit, and I hope I just don't like overwhelm you all beyond belief. Okay, I want to provide you enough value so that you can do some work to see if you have an issue or not. And of course, my challenge is to give you enough information to empower you, but not to totally scare you. Okay. So anyway, the first thing that you can do is you can check to see if your site is still indexed. Okay, so if you've taken a hit, if your site used to work and bring a lot of clients to you, a lot of phone calls, and it's no longer, and maybe it's even been this way for a while, you can do the cite command. So you just go to Google, you type in cite : no space, and then the name of your site. Okay, beckystherapy.com or whatever it is. Okay, then what's going to happen is that you're going to see one of two things. So here I'm doing the cite command for Counseling Wise, and look, I'm just typing it right in the Google search line. Okay, if all is well, my homepage should be at the top. Okay, so if you see this, I do cite Counseling Wise, and then you can, right under the little message from Google Webmaster Tools, there is in fact my homepage showing. Okay, so your homepage should be at the top. If your homepage is not at the top, then there's a good chance that you've been penalized. Okay, meaning maybe a different page is at the top, or maybe it doesn't show at all. And let me show you a site that has been penalized, or would be penalized if it were real. Whoops. So I did cite Ooga Wooga, you know, whatever. And this is what it'll look like if your site does not show up. You'll get this message that says your search site, you know, your site name did not match any documents. Okay, so if it's not in the index, that's definitely a problem. That's your first clue that something happened. All right, the next thing is, let's say that you do show up. Okay, your homepage shows up first. The next thing that you can do is type in your name and then your town and therapist. So this could be Lisa Smith, Boulder therapist, something like that. Now, then you need to look through the search results, okay? And it may be that you have to look through several pages, all right? But if your home page ranks for the term, that's a pretty good sign. If an inner page of your site, like maybe your about page or something like that, or some random page ranks, then most likely you have a penalty. Okay, and for any of you who might be like going, oh my God, this is all too technical, this is, you know, slow down, just remember that you're going to be able to watch this video again. You can get the replay. So don't worry about getting all the details right now. Okay. Anyway, these are the first two checks that you want to do to see if potentially you have a penalty. Now, the third one is that there's something called a manual penalty. And for the most part, these aren't manual anymore, but if you got hit a long time ago, you may have a manual penalty message in your Webmasters Tools account. So you can check Google Webmasters Tools, and this again is getting really technical. You would go to google.com and then Webmasters Tools, and then you would log in with your Google account. And if you don't have a Google account, sign up for one. You can add your site to your account if it's not already there. And if you need help with any of this, we can help you, okay? And then if you have a manual penalty, Google will tell you that you have a manual penalty, okay? They will tell you that in your Webmaster Tools account. So in some senses, if they tell you this, it's like a relief, because at least you know, right? At least you know for sure that you've been penalized. If you don't have a manual penalty in there, then we're looking at a bunch of other indicators to determine that. And I'll keep going and show you some more indicators. But I'm almost relieved when I see that. When something's not working at all, we know something's wrong. It's kind of like, okay, well, at least they told us there's a manual penalty. Thank you, Google. Now we know what to do. Okay, but if they haven't told us that, if it's if the penalty came because it was algorithmic rather than a human saying, hey, you did something wrong, then we're kind of playing a guessing game. We can still pretty much tell, but we have to do more work to tell. Okay, so that's how you can find out if you have a manual penalty. If you have a manual penalty, the recovery from that takes a little bit more work. Okay, and these are things that you have to do. It's usually due to bad backlinks. You have to do all these identification of the links, and then send link removal requests, and submit a disavow file to Google, and then submit a reconsideration request. Okay, you don't need to worry about the details of this. You don't even know if you have one, so don't worry about it yet. This will be here if you need it later, and we can also help you later. So don't worry about it right now, but this is basically the set of steps that you have to take. And honestly, it's tedious and ugly and tons of file manipulations and yuck. That's why I've avoided it for so long with helping people. But, you know, we have a process, so what the heck. If you have an algorithmic penalty, the recovery is slightly easier. You can, you don't have to do this reconsideration request. So you still have to do the first steps, but you don't have to submit a reconsideration request to a human being at Google to say, please, 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 you know, I'm so sorry that I did all these things. Please, you know, grant me forgiveness. Okay. So all you have to do is just submit the disavow file and do some indexing. And again, don't worry about the details. All right, so what I want to do right now is I want to give you a better sense of what Panda and Penguin are so that you can know whether you have problems or not. So Panda, again, the purpose of this was to penalize sites that have poor content, okay? What do we mean by that? You know, I already told you people were complaining to Google, so they rolled this out. When they rolled it out, there were many people who had terrible, terrible websites. They just went out of business, basically. Okay, they just 40% of sites have been penalized by Panda. That's the word on the street. Okay, so let's look at what it is. The reason for penalties are, as I said before, thin content. If you don't have very much content on your site, very few pages, and those pages don't have a lot of content. And when I say a lot, really what you should be shooting for these days is 900 to 1,000 words. Those are the pages that are ranking these days, okay? 900 to 1,000 words. Now, even if you have maybe 400 to 500, you won't get hit by Panda. You may not rank well, but you won't get hit by Panda, okay? And I'm going to show you a site that is a thin content site here. The other reason is if you have duplicate content, either within your site, okay, meaning you've duplicated pages, that's the main cause for the Panda penalty, or if you've copied site content from somebody else. Panda also penalizes sites with too many advertisements. This is not very applicable to therapists for the most part. Neither is poor grammar. These are not issues that I normally see. You could also get penalized if you have a slow site loading time, okay? Anything above 4 seconds is bad. 2 or less is best. 2 seconds is the best, okay? Between 2 and 4, you're probably okay. But if you're above 4 seconds, you can get penalized, and they're not going to show your site, okay? SEO over-optimization, so keyword stuffing on the page. And then there's some other whiz-bang technical things that people did that probably none of you did because it's too technical. So we're not going to worry about those things. But, you know, if you have a site that, if you say, you know, you have page, depression therapy, you know, Phoenix, and then your header says, this page is about depression therapy or looking for depression therapy Phoenix. And then in your content, you say depression therapy Phoenix is often sought by people in your situation. Are you thinking that you need depression therapy Phoenix? I mean, it's crazy, right? It's stupid, it's not readable. But if you have a site that overuses keywords like that, then you're gonna get hit. There's just no doubt about it, okay? You used to be able to get away with it, no longer. So that's Panda. So let's talk about fixing it. Well, with thin content, you want to add more pages, obviously, okay? Each page should have valuable text, not just video and images, but it has to have valuable text. Here's a sample site that has been hit by the Panda penalty, okay? So it's a fashion stylist. Now, there's, first of all, the thing to notice is there's only 3 pages. Okay, there's only 3 pages on the site: portfolio, about me, and contact. And the portfolio page is obviously all graphics, okay? In fact, most of the pages are graphics. So there's very, very little text. It just leads to a penalty, right? They want text that they can crawl to understand what the site's about. So I haven't seen anyone in the therapy world who has something this graphic intensive, but some of the therapists who tend to veer to a more artistic look, they will often have a lot of images and very little text. And they think that that's aesthetically pleasing, which maybe it is. It often doesn't communicate very well to your end client what they should be getting from your site or what you think they're going to be getting. And Google can't crawl text because there's no text that exists. So you could be penalized by Panda at that point. So let's talk about fixing Panda penalty some more. If you have duplicate content, obviously you want to look for pages or parts of pages on your site that you have copied, either from someone else or from other pages on your site, okay? Eliminate them or make them unique. Rewrite them if you need to. If you have a WordPress site and your tags and category pages in WordPress are indexed, you may have a problem with duplicate content. So there's a way to no index these pages, tags, tag pages, category pages, author archives, date archives. You can do this via the SEO plugin Yoast very easily. So if that is the case, then, you know, and it may have been fine 5 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever, but now it could be a problem because this algorithm rolled out. So this is something that should be checked. And then finally, if you can look at your metadata, your titles and descriptions, and if you see any duplicates there, most likely have duplicated content on your site. Okay, so that's how to take care of that. Now let's talk about Penguin. Penguin, the reasons for the penalties are too many backlinks, typically, and then overuse of anchor text in backlinks. These are called unnatural link profiles. Okay, so let's say that you have, and I'll show you what these look like. Let's say that you have, you're a therapist in Atlanta, and somehow you got a bunch of backlinks built, and they say Therapist Atlanta, Therapist Atlanta, Therapist Atlanta, right? That's not natural. Most people won't do that. If people link back to you, they're going to really be saying, you know, whatever. Let's say smiththerapy.com or www.smiththerapy.com or http www.smiththerapy.com. Okay, those are more normal backlinks, or website or click here or something like that. So if there's a bunch of anchor text, me saying Therapist Atlanta or Depression Therapist Atlanta or Eating Disorders Therapist Atlanta or whatever, that is a bad sign. Okay, now here's how you can tell. Here's another lovely site, Tantric Massage for London. Okay, you can get a free account at Majestic. Just go to majestic.com. You can get a free account, and you can just put your website URL up there at the top and click this little magnifying glass. What will happen is it'll, also click the fresh index. It's defaulting to the fresh index, but make sure it is. Then what you want to see is that you're going to have two numbers. You're going to have a trust number and a citation number. So your trust and citation flow should be similar numbers. What this means is that a lot of links were built. There's a lot of citations pointing back to the site, but the trust is very low. Okay, so this site was definitely hit. You want those numbers to be similar. They don't have to be, like if you had 17 and 20, that's probably okay. But if you have 20 and 4, that's like a big deal. Okay. All right, now here's what their link profile looks like. You can also see this in Majestic. So you can get this free, you can get this information free. So they're going to give you this little wheel and little pie chart thing. And what you want is for this this light blue color to be the biggest thing on the page, which in this case it is, but it's usually want it to be bigger. And you also want all of these link texts here to really say things like your URL only, like this top one is their URL, so that's okay. But notice that they have all of these other words in here. These are key, it's a keyword rich, money keyword rich linking profile, okay? So this is not good. Again, you want this to be the highest, and then you want a lot of anchor text diversity, okay? And not all of these words that are money keywords. You want only 5 to 10% to be targeted keywords, okay? Now I'm going to show you one that is good, okay? So here's Counseling Wise. Notice that our light blue box is much bigger than this one over here. It comprises 38%. And notice that in here, most of the stuff that's here, there's a couple of things that are keywords, but most of them are either other or our URL name or my name or, you know, our business name, something like that. Most of them are. There's only one thing which has a keyword, which has keyword text, and that's great ways to utilize something, yada, yada, yada. I think we did a bunch of social on that post. So this is what you really want it to look like. This is a bad scenario, and yours could look even worse. Okay, if you have a lot of keywords over here in this list, you're in a bad situation. All right, so how do you recover? That's the big question, right? How do you recover if you have this problem? Well, first you need to fix the problems. You need to fix both the on-site problems and the off-site problems. And what I mean by that are content problems on your site, which are Panda penalties, and then off-site problems, which is link building, which is Penguin penalties, okay? Or build a new site. Ditch your site and build a new one. Now, that may sound awful, okay? That may sound terrible. But I have seen websites that have such poor content. Maybe they've been around for a while, but they have such poor content and so little of it, and it's going to cost a lot of money to fix the penalty. So why don't you just build a good site? Okay, this is honestly the best answer for some therapists. Build a new site and do it right. Okay, don't try to recover this other thing. It's almost like, you know, we had a big flood last year in Colorado, and some people had to make the decision, do I fix my house or do I tear it down or go buy another one somewhere or build one? It's the same thing. And in some cases, it just makes sense to give up on what you have and start over, okay? As sad as that may be. All right, on-site problems, here's what you need to do. If it's salvageable, you need to beef up your content, all right? You need a lot of pages. You need a lot of long pages with really good content. That's just the way it is. You need to get rid of any duplicate content you have. You need to fix any advertisements or poor grammar, which is, I have it in parentheses because it's not usually the case for therapists. If your site is loading slow, you need to fix that. One thing I forgot to put in here, GTmetrix. Okay, that's something that you can use to check your website load time. I just put it there in the chat, gtmetrix.com, so you can check that and see if that works. See where you're coming in for site load time, okay? So those are things that you can do there, and fix any keyword stuffing, obviously. If you're overusing the keywords, then fix that. All right, off-site problems. This is where it gets a little crazy. So you need to identify all toxic and suspicious backlinks. You need to ask the website owners to remove them. You need to submit a disavow file to Google. You need to wash, rinse, repeat, okay? Meaning you got to do this a couple of times to get it cleaned up. Now, when I told you about Lisa, we helped her find a service that would do this for $3,000, okay? That was the only service that we trusted. There are less expensive ways to do it now. If you don't want to fix it, you can always build a new site, as I said, but if you can fix it, and let's put it this way, if you have lots of really good pages like Lisa did, really well built out site with 600 pages or something, and good content, and basically doing all the things right except for a little mistake and hiring the wrong person, then it's going to behoove you to fix it, right? It would cost her more than $3,000 to rebuild her site because it was so big. But if your site isn't that big of a deal, if you haven't invested tons and tons of money and time writing content, then just build a new site, okay? It's really the best answer from any therapist anyway. Okay, so I realize that this is a very complicated issue and that this was probably the most technical webinar you've ever heard me give, and you're about to pull your hair out. So all I can say is that you need to be educated about this so that you know how to avoid these mistakes. And if you're stuck, you don't have to be stuck anymore. Okay, that would be the good news to take away from this. So I've given you lots of information here. Also, if you're feeling overwhelmed and want us to do a penalty assessment for you to see if you have been penalized, we can do that, okay? We can do that. So this penalty assessment that I'm going to talk about, it is not for you if you have good content and good SEO, okay? You should not have to worry if you have really good content and good SEO on your site. If you've not lost any rankings, it's probably not for you. If you've not lost any traffic, it's probably not for you, okay? You probably don't have a problem. If your phone calls are still good, don't worry about it, right? Just go forward. Just bring those clients in. But this is for you if you think you might have done something quote unquote tricky or paid someone to do it. Even if they were doing it in your best interest and it used to work and you have benefited from it, you may not be benefiting anymore. If you want to know for sure if you have a penalty or not so that you can decide what to do, this penalty assessment would be for you. And if you want someone else to do the work of figuring it out, obviously. that would be for you. So here it is. I actually don't expect that I'm maybe hoping that we don't get a lot of people who order this because it's so much work. But anyway, if you think you might have an issue, we have this assessment that we put together. So we will check your site for panda issues. We'll then check your site for penguin issues, both manual and algorithmic, okay? And then we will advise you on what to do and give you an estimate of what it would take for us to do it for you, all right? Now, that is a bigger piece of, how do you fix all this stuff? It's quite technical. And I gave you the high-level steps, but there's just so much file manipulation and decision-making on what's a good link and what's a bad link and how you identify them. But we've invested in a lot of tools that help us do it that you don't want to invest in. You'll probably be spending like $400 to $500 a month in tools alone just to get the data. So we can do that because we have a lot of clients. It pays for itself over time, but probably individual people don't want to do that. So anyway, this is the assessment service that we're offering. So here's the details. It will take us about 2 to 3 weeks to do it. Okay, it's very time consuming and we already have tons and tons of work on our plate. So it's going to be something that you just have to know I'm not going to be able to get back to you tomorrow on. It's going to take 2 to 3 weeks. The value priceless, right? If you are stuck and you don't know what to do, so you're just flailing, knowing how to proceed can get you unstuck so you can come back from failure online. Okay, it's simple as that. You really need to know, cut or go forward. And a lot of people are just hanging out in that in between and just dying on the vine. So knowing this is a really important thing to know. The introductory cost for this is $247. I'm probably going to kick myself, and that's one of the reasons we're only taking 5 people, because my fear is it's going to take us longer. We're going to probably lose money on this because it takes a long time to figure this out. But we're going to go ahead and roll it out for $247. All right. So if you're interested in this, it's first come, first serve. We're only going to take 5 penalty assessments at this time. We don't really know how much time it's going to take us. And again, I don't want to lose a bunch of money on this. But if you're interested in getting in for that initial price, if you think you have a problem, go to Counseling Wise Penalty Help. Okay, Counseling Wise Penalty Help. Why would you want to do this? Well, if you're not getting calls from your site, you may just be stuck with penalties. You don't need to give up, right? A lot of people are just, online marketing doesn't work. It can give you clarity and help you move forward so you know what to do. All right. So if you want to get one of those spots, I'm sure it's going to sell out because there's too many people hurting from this. Go to counselingwise.com, penalty help, and we can help you. All right. That page will also tell you what will be delivered to you. If you don't know and you want to talk to me about it, you can go to the website, counselingwise.com, and there's a little Let's Talk screen that will pop up from the bottom. You can schedule a call with me. That is for those who have questions on this only, okay? Obviously, other people schedule those if they've never had a half-hour free session with me. But if you have questions about this offering and whether you might have a penalty and need it, then you can go there and schedule time with me. All right. So again, first come, first serve. We're only taking 5 people. There's the link. And I'm going to go ahead and open it up to questions now. Okay. So if you're all not asleep or pulling your hair out, I would love for you to go ahead and type in any questions that you have. I realize again that this is highly technical and that, I may have scared you to death. So go ahead and type in any questions. I'm happy to help you in any way I can. It looks like we have about maybe 10, 15 minutes left here. No questions yet. Are you guys still alive after this? I know there's a delay with Google Hangouts too, so waiting to get your questions. Yeah, Megan just posted the link there so that you could copy it and paste it if you need it. counselingwise.com/penalty help. That's the page. Any questions? Nobody's asking any. Scared? How are you feeling? Are you scared? Are you bored? What is gtmetrix.com? Good question, Keith. GTmetrix is a tool that runs on a server that will basically, in the background, pull up your website and measure the time that it takes your page to load. Okay, so it will give you feedback telling you, hey, it took this long for your page to load, you know, let's say 1.7 seconds or 2.9 seconds or 6 seconds or something like that. And then it will take a crack at telling you what it thinks is wrong. Okay, maybe your images are too big and they need to be reduced in size. Maybe your server isn't responding very fast. Maybe your code has coding mistakes in it or something like that. So it's something that will give you an indication of whether or not you have page load problems and why those problems are existing as best as they can tell, right? So if you come back with a site that's loading in 6 seconds or something like that, you're going to need to do some things. And often image optimization is the biggest answer there, okay? So I'll just leave it to you to find out what your page load time is, and then if you need help with figuring out how to fix it, we can talk about that. Okay, let's see, Andrea. Can you please talk about what is the case as far as penalty when you have 2 domains on one website, and if using 2 domains is a good idea? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Andrea. Can you give me an example? 2 domains on one website. Do you mean a canonical URL issue, or what do you mean exactly? Because that could be a 301 redirect, that could be a canonical issue. I'm not sure what you mean there. It could be a subdirectory like blog.website.com versus www.website.com. So if you can give me a little bit more information on exactly what you mean, then I can answer the question. If it's a canonical issue where you don't have the www redirected to the vanilla version or vice versa, then you have a duplicate content problem and you could be penalized there. But if you can give me more information on that question, I can answer you better. And I realize there's a delay. This is the problem with Google Hangouts. There's just a delay. So just type in your clarification when you can. And if somebody else asks a question, I'm going to move to that and then I'll come back to you. Okay. Any other questions? Let's see. Keith, what is cost and time to build a new website? Good question. So if you need a new website, websites program, which, you know, I humbly actually believe is the best program out there because we know how to do all this stuff better than anybody else, and we actually do it and help you market well. It is going to be a $1,500 to $3,000 range for a new sole proprietor site, okay? And that is a big range. The reason it is a range is because it depends on how many specialty pages you have. It depends on whether you have us write it or you write the pages, all sorts of stuff. So let's see, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to type in a link that you can go to so that you can learn more about that program, counselingwise.smart. So Keith, go there. It'll tell you all about that program, everything we do, how it works, what the initial payment is, yada, yada. Okay, so that's the cost to build a good website. And you don't want to build a bad website. Okay, that's just going to be a waste of time, as you've seen by a lot of these people who have been penalized because they had bad websites. Okay, Ken. Hey, Ken, how are you? Ken, we just start running ads in the newspaper again. I feel like I want to be a Luddite in this area. Yeah, you could. You could. Do people get newspapers anymore? Do it on the Sunday paper if you're going to do it so that more people will read it, right? I hear you. It's frustrating. It's really frustrating. You know, and if you get it dialed in right, I mean, we have clients who are getting 4 and 5 calls a week from their website, right? So if you get it dialed in right with a lot of good content, it works wonders, right? And it's a machine that's just going to keep working. But getting there is a lot of work. So I hear you. I know what you're saying. But Ken, if you start running those ads and they work, let me know, because I would love to know how you're making them work. Right? I'm interested in marketing from any viewpoint, not just online, but I haven't been able to figure out the offline stuff very well, very reliably. Okay, let's see. Any other questions? Let's see. Andrea, never got more confirmation on your question. If you want to type that in, I will give you a better answer than I gave a stab at. But if there's no more questions, then I'm going to call it a webinar here. I'm going to give you just a few more minutes to see if anybody's typing right now, because I would love to help you out if you do have questions. But if you don't, then we don't need to stay on much longer. So anyway, I do realize, you guys, that this was very technical. I'm sorry, you know, but it's just kind of the way it is. Keith, do you have templates to use with current or new website? Okay, great, Ken. Thanks for that. Keith, let's see, templates to use with current or new website. I'm not really sure what you mean. Templates to follow to find out if you have a penalty, templates to build a new site. I'm not sure. In our Smart Therapy Websites program, we have many design templates. There's lots for you to see out there. In addition to what we currently have on our site, if you're talking about building a site, we have some new templates that we're using, and we're still in development mode for many of those. They're pretty snazzy, they're pretty neat, and we'll be launching many of those soon, probably in the next 2 weeks. The next batch of sites will be launched, so you'll be able to see those. We can probably even give you some sneak peeks at some of the new design templates if you want to see those. So if you're interested in that, if that's what you're talking about, Keith, feel free to just reach out to me. Let me know. Schedule a half-hour consult with me, and I'll be happy to talk you through it. If it's around penalty removal, no, I don't really have templates. It's more of what I told you, and we could do it for you, the assessment, and then you can decide what you want to do. Okay. All right, troops, I'm going to decide that we are done here. No new questions. Thank you all for listening and bearing through it. Hopefully I didn't harm anyone. And, and, you know, just know that it's high-level information. Just be wary of, you know, over-optimizing on your pages or thin content and all that stuff, and be wary of building bad backlinks, okay? And go forth and conquer. And if you have a problem, let's figure it out and help you get through it so that you can be getting clients online again. All right, thanks everybody for your time. Take care, and I'll talk to you next webinar. Bye-bye.